Hi and welcome. My name is Isam. I'm the senior designer at ISD Architects, where we help homeowners and business property owners, developers, project and construction managers realize their projects, their dream homes, their dream businesses, whether it's a new construction or a renovation. In this video, I'm going to talk about or pick up on the subject that we started in the first video of this series, which is the design process phases. In the first video, and please, if you haven't seen that video yet, I highly recommend that you go and review it and see it. In the first video, we talked about the general 7 steps of or phases of any design process, and we focused on the site analysis and its importance. In this video, we're going to talk about the second phase of the design process, which is particularly the zoning review. Now, the zoning review is done usually by an architect or the designer or the consultant in general, if it was an engineering firm. And the zoning review is about checking whether your zone of town, your zone of the city, your zone of the neighborhood applies or have certain governances or regulations that deal with your property, whether you can build in the first place that particular utility. Let's say you're looking to build a workshop, a mechanic workshop or a factory in a residential area. Would you be able to do that? In certain cases, yes. In certain cases, you can't. In certain cases, you have to apply for what we call minor variances. So this is the first condition. It's here where you check the validity of your application, of your program. And this is not only important, in fact, this is crucial. Upon this stage, you would be able to know exactly whether you can build or not in the first place, whether you can borrow money to build that project or it's not feasible to start the whole process that follows. So this is really a crucial stage where the architect usually can help you, but you can also do it yourself if you are familiar with the zoning review process or processes. Now, the zoning review, which is done here, I've written the architect, is the best thing that it is done by the architect, because then you would have all the options in front of you, and then you discuss with your architect or designer the possibilities. Whether it doesn't comply with the zoning, then what you do, what are the options, how can you go about that issue. So there are 2 factors that are very important to start with at the zoning review. The first one is called the lot coverage, and the second one is called the GFA, or the gross floor area. The lot coverage is the maximum footprint that your building can cover in a particular property. So for argument's sake, let's say you have a 1,000 square foot vacant land, 1,000 square foot. Now we can talk about, probably you have 300 square feet already on site, then how much you can add to that. But it's all related. You can just minus what you have, and then the remaining would be what you're allowed to build. But let's say it's a vacant land and it's 1,000 square feet and the lot coverage is 60%. That means you can cover on the ground floor, on the main floor, 600 square feet from that particular 1,000 square foot. So that's the lot coverage, how much you can cover in that lot. The second criterion is the GFA, gross floor area. So the gross floor area is another component, but it works with the lot coverage. I mean, they have to be together. You have to know the lot coverage, and then you have to know the GFA. The GFA comes in a different representation. It's kind of it's called the floor space index, which is could be 1, could be 0.9, could be 0.8, could be 1.2. When the land is scarce and you're in downtown and you want to build towers, for example. So the GFA tells you exactly, with the assistance of the lot coverage, how many floors you need to fill that GFA. or the total number of square feet, and then you realize, okay, if I design the floor at this height, then I can get that GFA, total GFA, with 3 floors. For example, if the lot coverage is 30%, not 60%, 30%, then you can build only the ground floor to be 300 square feet, but the GFA would be 0.9, the space floor index would be 0.9 of the 1000. That means it's 900 square feet. So 900 square feet, but you can only build 300 square foot on the ground, or the footprint. You can cover only that. Then you have 600 square feet extra. Where do you put it? You build 2 more floors. Now the third element deals with the height. Of course, the city bylaws have been negotiated or have been developed. It's a historic thing. It's not like a bunch of bureaucrats sit down and decide exactly what to do with this area or that area. Of course, there's the element of councillors who would try to maintain a good urban planning in that zone. So it's partially an urban planning, a streetscape, how you perceive the buildings, how much setbacks do you have, how much green you have in the street. So all of these factors, how much height the buildings could be raised. Otherwise, it would be the cityscape or the landscape, for a larger area, would be haphazard, and the city would not be perceived as organized and as well maintained and aesthetically perceptible as when you have certain planning criteria. So the zoning review deals with that. So we started with the lot coverage, and then we go to GFA, and then you have a box that you can play around with. So that box, let's say 300 square feet area lot coverage, 900 square foot, because your index is 0.9, then you can build 3 floors, but that doesn't have to be a tower. It could be probably 300 square foot here, 200 square foot here, and 200 square foot, and then the remaining would be probably a penthouse of some sort. I'm just throwing some ideas so you'd understand. If you are allowed to build 4 floors, if you're not allowed to build 4 floors, then you fill up your floor plate at 300, 300, 300, and so on. So this study is done at this stage. And I always advise my client that it's better that the architect does this rather than you go, and I know that business owners and homeowners are also business owners eventually, or they are employed, they are overwhelmed with the flux of chores and things that they have to do. So even if they want to take the learning curve and they try to follow up on the zoning, it would not be as well done as when you give it to a specialized person. And this is, as I say, this is the base of all the other activities that the architect would do, or yourself would do if you're the designer yourself, that you would base your building or design process upon. Otherwise, at this stage, which would be costly to reach to, you would have to go back and start all over again, which is really not feasible, which is really frustrating for many people, that they have to come back because they didn't pay attention to that stage. So to recap, zoning review is the review of the bylaws that govern a certain area in the town or the city or in the village, and those zoning bylaws or regulations deal with how much building you can build on the ground floor or on the main level, and how much total square footage you can put on that particular land. And there are other elements that I didn't mention that has to do with setbacks. So the front yard setback, how much you have to set back in order to maintain a green strip or a soft landscape at the front in order to take care of the streetscape. In downtown, as you all know, probably the buildings lines or buildings have no setbacks. They're right on the property line. That's because of the value of the land and the streetscape as well. Certain pockets, of course, when they are dedicated, designated for parks, they are prohibited to be built on, but the rest of the buildings are all maxed out. The property is maxed out. So the setbacks are important, but the setbacks are also coming from the sides. So we call it side yard setback from here and from here. And there are a couple of criteria that govern that. Is the distance from your neighbor. It has to be maintained within certain limit, and the distance from your property. There are code issues that the fire issues that had to deal with the flame spreading in case of fire to your properties and from your property. And there are also issues that have to deal with shadowing or casting a shadow on your neighbor's building if you are building over his higher than his building or her building, sorry. And there are other criteria that has to do with fire escapes. If you have a fire escape on the side of the building in case of multi-story residential building or commercial building and so on and so forth. All of these criteria, in addition to the soft landscape, hard landscape, car parking, and all the rest of it that we just mentioned have to do with the zoning review. It is crucial that we do our homework at this stage. We take as much time as possible. We lay out the options before we go on and even discuss the program. Because if it's no, you can't, it's not a residential area, you can't build a house here, then what is the meaning of this? It becomes futile to talk about the program and the spaces and how many bedrooms if your property is located in a non-residential area. I hope you enjoyed this video. In the coming video, we're going to talk about the rest of the design process phases, starting with the program, assuming that everything is fine here. So we start with the program. And please go to our website at www.isdarchitects.com to know more about our services and how we can help you realizing your projects and to facilitate the process for you and make it very easy and simple and straightforward as much as possible. Until then, have a wonderful day and take care.